You're listening to the 4-Phase Cycle podcast with your hosts, Dr. Alex and Megan of ZESTY Ginger. If you're looking to naturally balance hormones and learn how to work with your body instead of against it, you've definitely come to the right place. As a duo of an integrative MD and a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and best friends, we use the 4 phases of the female cycle in combination with functional lab work and mindset practices to transform the lives of the women we work with.
We also have a whole lot of fun along the way. If you're new around here, it's best to start with season 1 before jumping around and plan to roll up your sleeves. Showing up for ourselves and enjoying our lives is what good health is all about. Just a quick reminder though, this information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making changes. Hello there and welcome. Welcome back to the 4-Phase Cycle podcast. Megan here. And today, who remembers the podcast we did in January about are you putting whipped cream on poop? We had a lot of amazing feedback from that episode. It was something that I co-hosted with Amanda Walker from Feel Amazing Naked. And we had so much great feedback that we said, hey, why don't we do this again? It's been 6 months or so. Let's get together and co-host another podcast that we're going to put on both of our podcasts. So today is a conversation with Amanda Walker from the Feel Amazing podcast, and it's called How to Get the Results You Never Expected. That's been the theme lately. We have a new line of work that both Amanda and I have been getting into and digging into and are really passionate about adding to all of our other toolkits. And as we add to our toolkits, we always share with you. Amanda and I just co-hosted an in-person retreat in the beautiful spot in New Hampshire. So amazing. It was so fulfilling for me and the ladies who participate. And it was all about what we're going to talk about today. You know, often there's this discomfort when you're letting things go. Sometimes when you work on one area of your life, you are surprised by what happens in a different area. And often what you think is holding you back is different than what is actually holding you back. So we'll talk about how I'm switching gears a bit to an area I'm even more passionate about and what has come up for me as I switch and what maybe comes up for you and how to process it. And I just want to make a note for you all to grab your phones and get our text message number where you can text us directly. And there are going to be lots of trainings and podcast series on hormone health coming up in August and September, followed by more brain health in October. So if you want to make sure that you get on the update list, you can just text updates to 757-767-5053. And you will be getting notifications from us at the moment that we'll be live or a training is out. So if you want to make sure to get those trainings, just text 757-767-5053 with the word updates. And then feel free to send us a message. It's direct message and we can reply to you. All right, let's get into this fabulous interview. We'd love, as always, if you can send us some feedback, take a screenshot, share with a friend, share on social media, leave us an amazing review about how you like the podcast and what you want more of, and let's go.
So Amanda here and Megan of ZESTY Ginger, and we're just coming together because it's fun, and who doesn't want to have fun in business and do it with people that kind of get you?
We have a great time talking all things related to health, all things related to business, all things related to mindset. So we were talking about our latest, I don't want to say struggle, our latest shifts that we're both experiencing, and wanted to come on and just have a conversation about what it can feel like when you are creating a new identity, letting go of an old you, shedding that skin, moving from one old programming to a new programming or an old paradigm to a new paradigm, and how it can feel a little unsteady temporarily, which we're both
100%.
experiencing.
Yeah. And we were scheduled to record this podcast at an earlier episode, and we both showed up on the same day, like in our stuff. I was feeling very called. I've been sitting and like shifting that I've been wanting to make, but I wasn't sure what it looked like for months around some things professionally. And you kind of were sitting in your own stuff. So it was kind of funny when we showed up and we're like, yeah, it's not the day. And then 24 hours later, we're like in this fresh new energy, feeling a little bit more clarity about what comes next. So it's always helpful to know, A, you're not alone, and B, there is a light on the other side.
We see this happen all the time. I'm sure you do too, Amanda, is when someone goes through a program and they think they're coming in for one thing, right? They think they're coming in for their weight, their acne, their hormones, and then they leave realizing what was underneath all that. And there's this temporary shift of like, wow, who am I? Who do I surround myself with? What are my new habits? I'm not even here for what I thought I was. So this shift happens personally in health journeys, and then obviously for anyone who has a business or anyone who's on a mission, the same thing. Things are always shifting and growing and changing. And we just wanted to talk about how normal that is and what we do about it.
Yeah, it feels chaotic when you're in it, right? Even overwhelming. You have this vision of what it's supposed to look like. And then reality sinks in, and it really, some parts might look similar. And also, a lot of things shift for you that you never expected, which is beautiful. And sometimes you have a lot of questions about. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about how kind of we both handle it and use different tools on ourselves and with clients to get to the other side.
And what happened for me, Amanda, recently was I got to go to an amazing Dr. Joe Dispenza event. And during the week, so for those of you who don't follow along with his work, go check him out. He's amazing. And in general, the idea behind the week is it's a week-long event of getting into the quantum field and getting into a meditative state. There's walking, sitting, lying down meditations, all different kinds. And you spend this whole week with amazing people getting into this state. And so I got back from that week and I was just totally blissed out. I mean, I felt amazing. And I realized during this week that I had gotten to the feeling, I'm just going to call it unconditional love, like wholeness, worthiness, just feeling amazing. I had gotten to that by basically closing my eyes and sitting there, right? By getting into a meditative state, getting into alpha, getting into gamma, and came home and was like, wait a minute. So I have been working so hard for almost 40 years, right? Growing a business, learning things, sharing things, trying to, have the best programs and the best everything and growing all to get to this feeling. Really, I was always looking for this feeling. And then I got this feeling just sitting there with my eyes closed. And I came home like, I don't know what I'm doing now because this was there and available to me the whole time, and it was right there. And I felt it. And I know everybody has said that. I even say that, right? Like it's inside of us and we can have the feeling before the thing. And I have always believed it. I had never quite experienced it to that degree where I was like, oh yeah, this is the feeling. This is the thing I've been going for. So then you come home, and I just recently working on a post for Instagram, and I'm thinking about all the things that people will ask me questions about and want to hear from Zesty Ginger is, about their cycles and about their food and about their symptoms and their periods and their acne and their estrogen and very specifics, right, of their lab work. And I was thinking about how much I would rather talk about things like the quantum field and feelings and manifestation and trauma and upleveling and human design and meditation and altered realities, right? All these other areas that I've really shifted into. And it feels like there's this gap, although I can feel Dr. Alex and I moving towards that. Our latest program, Health Transformation Accelerator, had already moved that direction. It just, the gap felt so wide. I sat there like, I don't even know what to post about anymore. And you were in a different
Totally.
transition, right?
Yeah, I mean, everything you said, I echo the same. I would say though, I've had probably for like 6 or 7 months, like this inner knowing that this gap existed. And you know how I figured it out was my energy, like my vibration in showing up to have some of the same conversations I'd been having for like the last 4 years, specifically around weight loss, because that's really how my business began. And that's where a lot of my conversations, my like energetic vibration has shifted. And, the commitment that I make to myself and that I know you guys are the same is I'm doing this because I believe in it and because I want to stand by everything that fills up my soul. And I left a teaching career that like wasn't doing that for me so that I could create my life and be driven by my passion. And so I want to say like that started to like dissipate in the health side, but business coaching was revving up over here. And so I had this like disconnect of like one feeling juicy and exciting and like give me more, and the other one like something's quite not quite where I want it to be. And I think the kicker for me is like, yeah, what are the questions they're asking me? Like, how much protein should I be eating? Should I be lifting weights or doing cardio? How much cardio is enough? What if I don't feel good in a bathing suit? But really, the aha for me is weight loss does not create confidence. And so I've got to let that piece go in order for me to stand in my power and do what I think I'm here for, which is help women create their own legacy. And that does not have to do with scale weight. And so that gap seems vast, like you said right now. And also, I don't think it's as big as we both perceive it to be.
Right. It's really the same route and going the same direction. It's just the being able to explain it when you're in a new space. And I think one of the things that's happened for me and also for you, Amanda, from what we've talked about is that over the years, there's when you're learning things and when you're growing and when you're building something, there's all this overwhelm and there's all this constant like changing and growing. And when you're in that constant space, you don't get to, or you don't, I didn't stop and really look at what you're doing and what you like and what you're aligned with. And over time, those of us who do decide to implement tools in business to reduce overwhelm and do really look at our life and like, what do we want? What do we not want? How are we operating? Right. Having those tools to make everything like in our physical reality easier. For example, you have an amazing like meal planner, something that people can take and just like plug this in. Here's my fat, carb, protein for the day. Here's meals. Make that easy. Like once we've implemented those tools and made all the things around us easier, we have this space to go a bit deeper and then start to question, well, what do we really want?
Yeah,
Right.
totally. I agree. I mean, from a business standpoint too, I think it's the beautiful shift from scarcity into abundance too, because, when you're building a business in the beginning too, it's a lot of like lack mindset of like, where's the next client? Where are they coming from? Am I going to make the dollar? And then when you start to see that, um, there is consistency there for to some degree. Yes, you ebb and flow and there's highs and lows, but when you start to lean in and trust the process, you create the space now, I think, to look bigger, to think bigger and really say, but what do I want like right now? Because I was telling you yesterday too, I when I was a teacher, I was like, I don't want to be a freaking filing cabinet teacher who reaches in and pulls out like, here's February's lesson plans. And I don't want to be that same way in business because I think we are both doing our clients a disservice if we're not in our passion and in our purpose when we're serving, which I think is why we both continually educate and we add new tools to our toolbox to help clients out of, well, I mean, the exact same stuff we're experiencing and do with each other rather, when it comes to evolution and growth.
So the old programming was the what we should be doing, how it should look, right? All the shoulds. I should be helping people in this way. I should coach in this way. I should charge this much. And then now we can shift completely away from the shoulds and start to navigate, well, how do we want it to look? And why were we following those things? What do those even mean? Because like you said, I know when I'm excited about something, right? When I'm super into something new, I love to learn new things and I definitely dive all in and go down a rabbit hole. But when I'm in that space, people will message me all the time. But like, we could tell you're excited, so we're excited, right? And so that's why there's this constant evolution. And it's the business model is set up a certain way, and I'm like, well, I just have to work this new stuff in because this is where the energy is and the excitement. And most people are like, okay, we're in for whatever this new crazy thing you're doing, we're in for it, because they can feel the energy around it.
Yeah, which is why like we've both leaned in towards, more live events, like where we get to do deeper work, which is why we're excited to do some of these, like utilize some of these new modalities inside of business. And like stepping back and big picture, like, okay, so then not everybody listening is a business owner, right? So then how does this resonate with real life? And I think that this is an exact example that translates into how are you choosing to live your day in and day life too, right? Are you shooting yourself, like going through the motions consistently? Or are you choosing to say, like, what's lighting my soul on fire, from tiny levels of getting outside and just working, in the sunshine for 10 minutes, to, connecting with friendships, to having hard conversations with spouses, parenting differently? I think that this applies across the full spectrum of life.
Yeah, and in our health transformation accelerator program, we have one whole week that is based on up leveling. And it's based on the idea that there can be some disintegration anxiety, right? You go from one place to another, and old stuff starts to fall away. You might notice relationships fall away. You're in a different state. You might notice that things start to rearrange around you. I know in my health journey, and same thing happened with Dr. Alex, like as she physically had less chronic pain, she had to remind everybody around her, because they would treat her as if she had chronic pain. They would speak about her body being weird, or right, like, oh, Alex's body's doing some weird stuff again. And she was changing, and everyone around her wasn't necessarily catching up. So that can be a really important part of, when you're going from one thing to a new thing, whether it's physically or an actual business change or whatever it is, you got to kind of catch people up around you. And if they can't catch up, then you have to really think, like, are they a part of this new reality? Are they coming for the ride? Or is this a time where I have to kind of look at all that, because that's really important, right? To your environment and where you're going.
Yeah, being able to have conversations with people that get you. We have that conversation a lot in the Feel Amazing Naked community too, because this is, and sometimes it's our spouses, or partners, that end up being those that are the hardest to bring along. At least from my perspective, those conversations I have with clients often is it's our spouse. It's kind of like, what the hell is happening right now? And they're questioning, right? And projecting a crap ton on you often. And it's not about you, it's usually about them. But being able to, invite them in, lead by example, continuing to do the work despite that, right? That crab clinging onto you. But for me personally, too, this is in friendships is one of the hardest pieces to let go of. I want to like cling to that a little bit, like, oh, but you were a part of me before. And also it served me then. And now it's like, to step fully into that next level, it's like you literally have to take the backpack off and drop it and just say, I am becoming her, that woman that I know I'm, have the potential to be, and surrounding myself with women that get me.
And I think that was what I realized, is that we have grown a large online community, and now I'm really craving that tight in-person communication. Obviously, a lot of us are after the last year.
Yeah, I think it's for sure.
And I'm so excited. When this airs, we probably will have already had our first retreat in New Hampshire and another one coming up in Sedona.
Yeah.
And
And I love that, like that intimate vibe is just a few ladies who are really there to show up and shift and change and be open to whatever is possible for them.
so we've both, Amanda and I have both been using a technique called the quantum transformation technique that we'll be using at the retreats. And it's a new tool to us that's just been so powerful for me. So for example, during when we were sharing our health transformation accelerator recently, I found that I had a belief that comes up every time I'm in the middle of something which I think is stressful and important, right? Want to get the word out to all the ladies that could be joining. And I have this belief that I can't work under pressure, and that my brain just goes blank. I have nothing to post all of a sudden. I don't even know what to do on the most important time where I would be sharing this. And so I called up Amanda, said, Amanda, please help me. I need to shift this belief. Like I knew it was a belief. I knew the belief was there. And at the same time, consciously knowing that it wasn't changing my actions. I was still sitting in my pajamas, pretending that I couldn't do anything. So
Totally.
that was really cool. We've used this technique on lots of things. It was really cool to use it real time in the middle of a launch. It was to share, have you help me clear that. And then at the end, whenever you're shifting a belief with this technique, at the end, you helped me come up with an actual task to secure in that new neurology, that new belief. So I left with, okay, my task of going to physically do, I think it was videos that I was going to create,
Yep.
right? I was going to go do it. And I remember I, cleared that feeling, cleared that belief. And I immediately just felt this weight off my shoulders. And it was almost like, wait, what was my problem? Like, why could I not do it? It was a matter of lifting the phone and sending the video, right? There was nothing physically holding me back. It's so powerful what our brain can convince us of when there's fears around something or these limiting decisions we've made. And that was really cool. So I just want to thank you for clearing that, and having that, having people on your team who you can call and say, I'm in the middle of something, I would like to shift this now, instead of doing a lot of people will wait, right? Like 6 months, a year, 2 years till they'd hit their
Yeah.
hugest rock bottom and then reach out for help.
Yeah. Well, first off, you're welcome. And I'm grateful to be able to support each other. And what I wanted to say about that is that this is also that, like, for people like me too, who are stepping more into this, like getting away from that belief that hard work brings success. I am in control of everything I do. Like I am the creator, right? That's where my very masculine, like energy comes from. And that's a belief that I'm chronically still working on, like baby parts of that belief. But what I want to say is that the belief work is so powerful with the action, like the tasking, right? It solidifies it. So sometimes I think there's this idea that, oh, we just shift and it's all good and yay. But the truth is that the magic is in the tasking that comes along with it, which was so powerful for you and is for me because you've helped me. And I think we were talking about it before. It's, there's these parts. For me, it's a lot of parts work that comes up. Part of me that wants one thing and part of me that is thinking the other. And I'm sure ladies listening, for me, a lot, something I've cleared out is part of me wants to be a multi 7-figure entrepreneur, but part of me wants to be like a mom, right? And I can't be both, right? So integrating those parts to see like, I can have both. Or part of me wants to make all this money and part of me is like, oh, I'm safe here. It's okay to be here, which I think is what we were kind of working on last time. But understanding that those are just like this tug of war in your mind that can come together to show that they actually want the same thing. They're both there because they want the same outcome and it's of your highest good in both pieces. And then when you can take action to bring the two in alignment, so freaking awesome.
I just integrated some parts today because part of me knows that this 5-week vacation that will have probably be in the past by the time this airs, but I deserve this 5-week vacation I'm taking with my family and husband that just retired from the military after 24 years. And part of me thinks that's too long to not work. And so I brought that together and realized again, same higher purpose of both parts, both there to protect me. And we see a lot of parts with the women we work with in that part of them wants to get healthy, or part of them feels that they could no longer have symptoms, and part of them maybe believes that they're not worthy of that. It'll never happen. Um, they've tried all the things, right? So I hear it in the language. Someone will be like, just, well, part of me knows that I can be healthy, but part of me really thinks it just won't happen for me. So we get to bring that together, help people bring that together to know that they can have it.
Yeah. And in the beginning stages of business, it shows up quite a bit because part of them believes they can have success in building thriving business, and part of them believes like it's not possible for them. Like everybody else is a unicorn, right? And so you're constantly focused on like, oh, no, it's not possible for me. I'm not worthy of all this success. So very similar in that boiling down to that worthiness factor. I mean, it kind of always is always that, but
Yeah. We could just stop there.
yeah,
You
totally,
are worthy.
totally.
I recently had worked with a few people who have been doing DNRS. It's the limbic system retraining, dynamic neural retraining system. So Annie Hopper, there's a few different ones. And Alex and I both did that program, or I shouldn't say did that program. We watched the program and learned the information and did it for a very short period of time, because really it's a long-term thing. And um, we were able to clear some things. And in this idea of the DNRS, sometimes there's an assumption of it will take a long time. And
Mm,
I've had a couple people now where we cleared something in that evening, right? In that one day. And I said, well, we no longer need to believe it will take a long time. We might as well just move on from that to, retraining something else. And it was really cool to just see that when there's so much emotion tied to an event or a memory, that a lot of the people I work with, when I really go back to when did your health struggle start, the more I dig, the more I'm almost always finding some pretty intense emotional event. And I say intense, it was intense to the person. Like externally, the world might not think it's all that big of a deal. But when I start to ask, well, what was happening then at 26, when, I start to get the backstory, and our emotions are just so tied to then the health, what happens with our health after. And so clearing that, it's just been so cool to watch people have things just go away.
yeah, and I think sometimes we go with like I don't know how it is with the ladies that you're doing this work around, but when I sit down with my ladies too, sometimes they're already kind of thinking about when we're doing release work, or like they're already projecting like the thing. Like they have this big memory, right? About, oh, this thing is going to be the thing that I need cleared. And what the unconscious mind says sometimes is, nope, nope, nope. Actually, it was a little tiny thing, like a little tiny baby thing that you didn't know it was so impactful, or it could also be a big thing. Um, but it delivers up exactly what needs resolution when you trust that process. And I think that's the cool part, is that we right, it gets trapped inside there and we're not even consciously aware of what's going to be the thing that gives us the freedom or allows us to have that breakthrough leap into the next thing. I was working with a client last week. I don't think I even shared this story with you, but we had, something that came up. We were doing some emotional work, and she came up to an incident where she was sitting on a car hood and she fell, and the ornament on the front of the car hood, like the decal or whatever, back in the days, it used to be more protruding, I think. It caught her neck and like slashed her open. And one of the things we've been working on is setting boundaries and using voice more and communicating. And I was like, that's right. And so it was super cool to see and hear from her. I mean, I didn't make that connection for her specifically, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, yes, like I can see it all piecing together now. And that's so powerful, to kind of see how things are connected and just lean in and trust the process.
That's true. I mean, for this technique that we're talking about, you do kind of use your timeline of events, so all your memories, and it's very cool what your unconscious mind remembers that you don't, and you don't have to know what happened, right? This can actually be generations back. It's really, really cool. You can work through epigenetics using the timeline, and you don't have to know or remember. It's stored in your body. It's stored there. So unconscious mind will bring up whatever during the process. And again, it is nice to just be like, okay, here we go. Take me to wherever. You don't have to know. Most people will think, oh, it must be this event that happened when I was 5, like you said. And it really rarely is. It's just there's other things that don't really think of, and they come up and they had a big impact at the time, how you perceived it. So you can get the learnings, have removed the trigger of that emotion, and then now it's a memory without that. It's neutralized, and this, as that's happening, it's just kind of changing everything in your timeline from then on. And just, I've seen really cool things happen with people changing stuff in relationships, and the other person doesn't even know, right? Like a parent child relationship, they go
Yeah.
back to change something in their timeline, and all of a sudden, like, weird, my mom's being really nice to me, what happened?
Yeah. Well, and the thing I love about it that I'm using a lot within my community is just the way we look at what we want. Because I find a lot of women are so stuck on what they don't want. They're so focused on as the languaging around NLP we've talked about is being away from motivated. So they're so in the pain. And, in my place, it's like they hate their job. So they want to build a business, or they're like not producing enough income in their business. So they're like, I don't want to be in that place. Or when it comes to like life, they're like, I don't like how I'm feeling in life. Right. So they're so pain motivated that creates inconsistent action. Though they have these yo-yo experiences in life, because what happens is once we take enough action to get out of the pain, then we're like, oh cool, it's comfortable, and then we tend to retract back into old patterns if we haven't really gotten at the root of what that thing is, right? Where now I just feel like I have even greater tools to offer clients on what towards motivation looks like. And it's constantly spending more energy and at a higher frequency focusing on, well, what am I building over here? Or what am I creating? What is it that I want? So I even find myself now even languaging with my kids. When or around in our kitchen when we're talking, and maybe it feels like it's getting into that complainy energy, and we've even said it to each other. It's like, no, 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 but what do you want instead? Like, where can we put our energy over here? And it feels so much better there.
It's so helpful with kids.
Yes, yes.
And we always talk about in our groups, right? Keep in mind that talking to your subconscious or unconscious mind is like talking to, an under 7-year-old. So if you watch what your kids will respond to, you say, don't touch the cake, don't run. What do? They touch the cake and then they run, right? Like they heard run and touch the cake. So it's really reframing too for our little 7-year-old unconscious mind. Like, what do you want, Megan? State it. State it. What do you want? Right? Not, I don't want to be anxious. I don't want to be overwhelmed. It's like, what do you want? So
Yeah. And if you're listening to this conversation, I actually think what you just said and where we're at right now is a really important part of the conversation is if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling unhappy, if you're feeling stuck, is continuing to tell yourself, why am I stuck? I'm stuck, or I am overwhelmed. Overwhelm is a choice from my perspective. And it's one I deal with all the time with clients is what do you want instead, or what are you going to create? Like this little nugget I think is really important to just highlight, because redirecting that energy and reframing it is amazing.
this is a choice. Biggest takeaway of my life so far.
Totally. I want to say the kid thing too. um my daughter is 11. I don't remember if I told you the soccer story around this, right? Or no. I just
Uh,
want to share it slightly again, because I think the cool thing is you do this work on yourselves. For everybody listening, like once you get supported on this, you can take these pieces to your kids. They are just such sponges, and they don't know they don't know that this isn't a normal like every parent does QTT, right? Or every parent focuses on towards motivation. But for my kiddo trying out for soccer, I was like, she was afraid not to make the team. She's like, what if I don't get a spot? What if? And I was like, well, what do you want? She's like, well, I really want to make all 3 teams so I can pick which team I want to play. I was like, well, then let's make it happen. So we used QTT to create that feeling of what that would look like when she was invited to all 3 teams to play so she could make a choice. And that's exactly what happened. And so I think that for us, it's cool and amazing. And even more so to rewrite the story with our kids is even more powerful.
that's so cool, Amanda. Kids. Well, I'd say that that's it for today.
Yeah, that was awesome just to riff around and um, be vulnerable about sometimes we sit in our stuff and we don't feel in alignment and the gap feels really big. And having people to have these kind of conversations with to begin to close the gap and regain, self congruency and whatever else is kind of feeling frayed. Um, I know I'm super grateful for you.
And so we're going to be sharing this on both of our podcasts. So, Amanda, do you want to share for our 4-Phase Cycle podcast listeners where to find you?
Yes. So I release episodes every Tuesday called the Feel Amazing Naked podcast. And then we also have Strip It Down Fridays, which are just 5-minute kind of massive action episodes. And we're on all podcasting platforms. And you can find us also in show notes at feelamazingnaked.com. And how about you? Tell us more about the 4-Phase Cycle podcast.
Perfect. Yep. So come on over to the 4-Phase Cycle podcast with Zesty Ginger, or Instagram's kind of our place where we hang out the most and answer questions and interact. So that's at zesty_ginger. And we love when people send us emails, leave a review, come DM us, take a screenshot, share this with your friend, tag Amanda's Instagram and mine. And we would love to just hear your biggest takeaways from today.
Yeah, for sure. And you could leave us a review on both places and tell us how you love us coming together and just keeping an open dialogue and being authentic about where we're at and when we feel stuck too.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming out to hang with us on the podcast. It is our goal to transform the way women are treated in healthcare. And we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. We have a lofty goal of 1 million downloads. And we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more women, get more amazing speakers for you, and bring the most cutting-edge information.
If you found these podclasses helpful, please take a moment to text 5 women you know the link to the series. We appreciate your help so much. Can't wait to see you next time.